coming off an overtime win against the Heat. Russell Westbrook was his usual amount of unevenness, tallying a triple-double, but also 8 turnovers. And not only do Westbrook's 64 turnovers lead the NBA, they're the most for any Laker in the first 12 games of a season. We're now joined by my main man, Ric Bucher. Rick, you wrote about this online for Fox Sports. Can the Lakers win a title without Russ changing his style of play?
Can't win with it, can't win without it, gentlemen. That is the issue and the problem here, because what you get out of Russell Westbrook when he is explosive and he's playing really fast is what you got the other night, is you get a win during the regular season. It works. You're going to get triple-doubles. You're going to win more than not. We've seen that, and that's who Russell Westbrook has been. There's a reason that Washington led the league in pace last year. There's a reason that the year before when he was with Houston, Houston was second in the league in pace. He has to play fast. But where did Washington go in the playoffs? Where did the Houston Rockets go in the playoffs? Not where the Lakers want to go. And that's the thing that has always puzzled everybody in the league about why the Lakers made this move. If you're doing it just because you want to play faster and you want to have a better regular season record, okay, fine. That makes all the sense in the world to make that deal. But if you're looking to go further in the playoffs, if you're looking to win a championship, the Russell Westbrook experience and the Russell Westbrook formula has never worked on that platform. So to answer your question, you can't win if you have him try to play more efficient. And at this point in his career, the thought that he could switch to that is unlikely. But let's say you could convince him and you could use him in more of a contributing role. Okay, but now you're not going to get the full Russell Westbrook. And if you're going to do that, and you're going to do that through the season, then you're probably not going to get the record that you were hoping to get or the seeding that you were hoping to get. So it is a conundrum. If you have Russell Westbrook play at his best, it is not a formula that works in the postseason. If you don't have him play at his best, then what are the chances that he's going to contribute to the level of all the guys that you let go or moved in order to get him? The Kyle Kuzmas and the Kentavious Caldwell-Popes and the Alex Carusos, all the guys that are performing, if you've noticed, very well for their current teams.
You know, the money jar for $10 words is growing. You came on, Rick, and you just threw $10 into the $10 word jar as well with great conundrum. Listen, I look at it like this. I don't really believe this is a conundrum. And in fact, I don't think it's a conundrum at all. There are too many brilliant minds connected to the decision of the addition of one Russell Westbrook to come to the LA Lakers. If there is one man who understands what playing fast looks like and playing with somebody who plays as fast as Russell Westbrook does, it's LeBron James. Why? Who is that? Matter of fact, I think his nickname was, what was it? Flash. Oh, yeah, Flash. Mr. Dwayne Wade was a very fast, quick, explosive player that did a lot of the things that mirror what one Russell Westbrook does. I don't think they brought him to, the more I'm watching, they have not brought him to L.A. to change his style of play. In fact, let me offer a different perspective here. Allow for Russ to be who Russ is. And as we get closer and closer to where we're going to be in this playoff run, we will adapt and adjust what we need to as vets, older dudes that understand how this game works. We understand the dimensions of this court. We understand what our strengths are. We understand what our weaknesses are. I remember watching this movie. I think it was called Soldier Story. I think it was with Adolf, I think his name was the actor's name, who was in the scene with Denzel Washington. And Denzel was this young soldier that was kind of, full of energy and life and was tough and strong. And the Sarge was old and small and frail and looked as though it was the end, and why is this old man leading our team? And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, you want to get into a fight? Let's get into a fight. And that man threw some sand up in his face, threw some gravel up in his face, and started working him, right? These old heads know how to win. It's not about them not understanding what they need to do as to how it will apply to winning. Let Russ be that young, vibrant, energetic guy who plays fast. Sure, that's too many turnovers. I understand that. That will lead to losses. I understand that. But his success rate has been very high as well, getting to a certain point. It's up to those old heads and the decision makers that chose to bring Russ here, knowing what his DNA is. You know it. Don't try to change what he is. What y'all old heads are going to do is you're going to adapt to what it is that your strengths and your weaknesses are, and you're going to make it work for you as you get deeper into this season. That's, as I'm watching this Lakers team play, that's what's coming to mind to me as someone who's watching with, man, an old man's coach's eye, even though it's basketball and it's not football.
Yeah, I think the movie was The Officer and a Gentleman, maybe.
Okay.
Richard Gere.
No.
Okay, now, that was a good movie at any rate.
This was Soldier Story. I could be right.
I do want to point out,
but that was a good movie,
Rick,
too.
It wasn't a Russell Westbrook game Tuesday. To be clear, it was a Malik Monk game. He had 27 points. He's the reason they won. Okay? Russell Westbrook, this is why they brought him in. LeBron goes down because he's 36. He was like 29 when he played with Wade. Yeah, we're going to need Russell to come in, pad some stats, and try to get us some wins. By the way, Russell Westbrook, 41% from the field, lowest in a decade. He's 28% on threes, but we know he can't shoot. That's been a bugaboo of his for a long time. Career high, 5.3 turnovers a game. That's not sustainable. Where we get the Lakers very interesting is when LeBron comes back and they slow it down because, as I said, he's 36. When they get Kendrick Nunn, he's going to be pivotal, Rick. You can laugh if you want. He's going to be instrumental. I guarantee you he's on the floor late over Russell Westbrook because he can shoot and he can space the floor. And, of course, THT, he can create with the ball in his hands. It's going to be a little bit interesting to see how Frank Vogel juggles the lineups because, as we're saying, Russ ain't changing. I know this is what he does, but the things that got him here aren't going to get him where he's going. He wants that title. You got to change, dude. Anthony Davis called him out earlier this week like, hey, man, these fast breaks you're running 1-on-3, losing the basketball, slow it down, bro. Like, if Anthony Davis is doing it, you know LeBron's doing it behind the scenes. They got good players coming back. I'm not buying Russ long-term, but I still think the Lakers will be fine. We anticipated, I believe back in August, guys, the Lakers were going to struggle out of the gate. First 20 games, kind of a feeling out process. Russell Westbrook, he's going to have to change or it's going to be over to the bench late in games, and he's not going to like that.
LeVar, I'm actually not mad at your argument.
Thank you.
It makes a certain degree of sense. But here's, again, the conundrum. Because you are suggesting that we're going to let Russell Westbrook make the decisions. We're going to put the ball in his hands because that's the only way you get the Russell Westbrook experience.
That's the genius of LeBron James. He's going to think he's making the decisions, but he really isn't. And they're going to be good enough to do that. These guys are good enough and savvy enough to let Russ think he's making the decisions. It's going to play out. Calibrate during the regular season. Calibrate letting him believe he's making the decisions. And when it gets to go time, LeBron is making the decisions. Believe that.
Other than giving him the clipboard and allowing him to draw up the plays,
I'm sorry to out you,
you have
LeBron.
to give him the ball.
That's true.
You have to give Russ the ball.
That's true.
For Russ to be Russ. He's not going to make great decisions. He's not going to be the guy out there doing what LeBron does, which is organizing everybody. And here's the other part. LeBron James can't be that without the ball in his hands. Like, for him to be the decision maker, he has to have the ball and he has to be directing traffic. That means that Russ is off the ball. And Russ, as a standstill shooter or as a floor spacer, does not work. And all of that suggests, to J-Mac's point, is that you're going to play slower with LeBron in order for him to organize everything. Again, Russ is not at his best in that scenario. And just miss me on this idea that we've got 2 quality wins from the Lakers without LeBron James because they won in overtime. Yes, they were quality opponents. They weren't quality wins in terms of the way they played. You got the full Russell Westbrook experience in the game against the Heat. Matched up against P.J. Tucker. P.J. Tucker, RIP, once upon a time was a really good defender. Russ went 5 for 10, scored 10 points in the fourth quarter. Yes, did the typical, I'm gonna run out the clock and shoot a three that I have no hope of making, and now we got to go to overtime. But then you go to overtime, and Russ is scoreless and has 2 turnovers, 2 egregious turnovers. That's what happens, and that was the winning time, and Russ was not part of that. So this idea that you can get, like, you can milk Russ to a certain point, and then you're going to allow, and this is the funniest part, J-Mac, you're nuts. The idea that Russ Westbrook is going to voluntarily sit on the bench. Frank Vogel's going to say, Russ, we're about to win this game, so you go sit over there, and I'm going to play Kendrick Nunn, and you don't think you're going to have problems in the locker room? No. You have to be kidding me. That is, again, the problem with this team. If Frank Vogel could mix and match and do whatever he needs to, he might have a chance. But he has to play Carmelo Anthony. He has to play Russ Westbrook. He's going to have a hard enough time not playing Rajon Rondo when it matters. So that is the difficulty with this team is, yes, you have stars. You have proud veteran stars. They also have demands and expectations that their abilities can't necessarily carry at this point.
Fall in line or be gone.
That both Frank Vogel and LeBron James have.
But those things
so they're gone. What are you going to get in return?
Those things exist.
I'll take anything over Russell Westbrook.
I think those things exist with what you just said, and that summing it up, exists with most teams in the NBA. They're all going to have to figure out certain things that they have to overcome that are